My parents wrote me out of their will. They told me to my face, over a lukewarm pot roast that tasted like ash in my mouth. And the reason? I refused to ruin my life for my sister. Again. It was a Sunday. It was always a Sunday when they wanted something. The air in their house was thick with unspoken expectations. My mother, Ellen, refilled my water glass for the third time, her smile so tight it looked painful. My father, Richard, cleared his throat, the signal that the performance was about to begin. And my sister, Chloe, the star of the show, looked at her plate with the practiced sadness of a silent film actress. "Mark," my father started, placing his fork down with deliberate weight. "Chloe has another wonderful opportunity." I took a slow sip of water. I knew this script by heart. An opportunity was Chloe's word for a half-baked business idea that required a mountain of someone else's cash. This would be the fifth wonderful opportunity. The first was a high-end dog walking service that folded when she realized it involved walking dogs in the rain. The second was a bespoke jewelry line that produced exactly 3 bracelets before she got bored. The third was a lifestyle blog. And the fourth was a plan to become a wellness influencer, which apparently required a $10,000 retreat to Bali just for research. Each one had been funded by a loan that my parents, with their dwindling retirement funds, had pressured me to cosign. I had caved the first 4 times. "Not this time. It's a curated subscription box," Chloe said, her voice a soft, hopeful whisper. "For artisan soaps. It's a huge market, Mark. People want authenticity." I just looked at her. She was 32 years old, 2 years younger than me, but she still had the wide-eyed innocence of a teenager asking for car keys, an innocence she had weaponized her entire life. "And this opportunity requires," I asked, my voice flat. "Just a small startup loan," my father interjected smoothly. "$75,000. The bank has already pre-approved it, contingent on a cosigner with a strong credit profile." All eyes were on me. I was the cosigner, the one with the steady job as a financial analyst, the one who bought a modest house, the one who packed his lunch and drove a 5-year-old car. I was the family's walking, talking credit score. I placed my own fork down, mirroring my father's earlier gesture. "No." The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the hum of the refrigerator. Chloe's lower lip began to tremble. My mother's smile finally cracked and fell away. My father's face darkened. "What do you mean, no?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. "I mean no," I repeated, looking each of them in the eye. "I will not be co-signing another loan. Chloe has had 4 chances with my financial backing. 4 chances that have left me with a cloud of debt that isn't even mine, affecting my own ability to invest in my future. I'm done." "Mark, this is different," Chloe cried, tears now streaming down her cheeks on cue. "This is the one I can feel it. Why can't you support me? Why do you always have to be so practical?" She said practical like it was a disease. In our family, it was. My parents lived vicariously through Chloe's whimsical and expensive dreams. My stability wasn't a source of pride for them. It was a resource to be tapped. "Because someone in this family has to be," I said calmly. My mother finally spoke, her voice dripping with disappointment. "We didn't raise you to be selfish, Mark. We are a family. We help each other. Your sister needs this. It's her dream. Her dream is a recurring nightmare for my bank account." I shot back, a bit more heat in my voice than I intended. "I'm still on the hook for $12,000 from the wellness influencer loan. Have you forgotten that?" They all looked away. Of course they'd forgotten. It was inconvenient to remember Chloe's failures. My father stood up, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "This is not a request, Mark. This is what you are going to do. You are going to sign those papers tomorrow." I stood up too. We were the same height, but in that moment I felt taller. The fear I used to have of his anger, of their disappointment, had been replaced by a cold, hard clarity. "No, I'm not," I said. "My decision is final." That's when my mother delivered the killing blow. She looked at my father, then back at me, her eyes like chips of ice. "Fine," she said. "If you're no longer a part of this family's future, then you won't be a part of ours." My father nodded slowly. "Your mother is right. We went to see our lawyer last week, Mark. We were updating our will. We've decided to leave everything to Chloe. The house, our savings, everything. We thought maybe if you showed some family loyalty today, we might reconsider. But you've made your choice. They expected me to shatter, to beg, to plead for my inheritance, for my place back in the family fold. They saw the will as their ultimate trump card, the final chain to keep me bound to Chloe's whims. I looked at their triumphant faces. I looked at Chloe, who was already dabbing her eyes, a faint victorious smirk playing on her lips, and I felt something inside me break. But it wasn't me that broke, it was the last thread of obligation I had to them. I didn't shout, I didn't argue, I didn't say a word. I just nodded, picked up my jacket from the back of my chair, and walked out the door. The sound of it clicking shut behind me was the most liberating sound I had ever heard. I didn't look back, I just kept walking. The first few days were a blur of numb anger. I went to work, I paid my bills, I ate my packed lunch at my desk. But in the quiet moments, the scene at the dinner table played over and over in my head. Their coldness, Chloe's fake tears, the smug look on my father's face. They thought they had won. They thought their threat had worked, even if it had cost them their son. But my silence wasn't surrender. It was the beginning of a war they didn't even know was coming. As a financial analyst, my mind is trained to see patterns, to find discrepancies, to follow the money, and something about their desperation didn't add up. My parents weren't billionaires, but they were comfortable. My father had run a successful construction supply company before he retired. They had the house, a healthy stock portfolio, a good pension. Why were they so frantic about a $75,000 loan? Why risk alienating their only responsible child for it? It felt excessive. That's when a seed of suspicion was planted. It started small, a nagging question in the back of my mind. What if I didn't know the full story? What if their financial situation wasn't what I thought it was? My silence continued. They didn't call me, and I didn't call them. A week went by, then two. The lack of frantic, angry messages was unsettling. They were confident. They believed I would come crawling back once the reality of being disinherited sunk in. They underestimated me. I started digging. It felt wrong, like a violation of trust. But then I remembered they had accused me of selfishness and written me out of their lives over a loan for soap. Trust had already left the building. I started with what I knew. Years ago my father had proudly shown me his online portfolio management account. He'd boasted about his smart investments. He was a creature of habit, and I had a strong suspicion he used the same password for everything. The name of his first dog Skipper, and the year he got married. One evening, armed with a glass of whiskey and a cold knot of dread in my stomach, I logged onto the investment firm's website. I typed in his username, which I remembered. Then I typed Skipper 1978. Access granted. My heart hammered against my ribs. I felt a wave of guilt, but I pushed it down. I had to know. I clicked on the portfolio summary. I expected to see a healthy six-figure number, maybe 7. I expected to feel a pang of loss for the inheritance I had given up. What I saw made my blood run cold. The account was practically empty. The vast majority of their stocks, the blue-chip shares my dad had been so proud of, had been systematically sold off over the past 3 years. The transaction history was a bloodbath of liquidation, and the withdrawals, they were huge, regular transfers. To my father's personal checking account. My breath hitched. I quickly, and with a growing sense of panic, found my way into their online banking portal. The same password worked. Skipper 1978. Their checking account told the rest of the story. It was a revolving door of money. Huge sums came in from the investment account, and huge sums went out. To Chloe, transfers labeled business capital, living expenses, studio rent, Chloe help. It was all there, in black and white. They hadn't just been pressuring me to cosign loans. They had been draining their own retirement to keep Chloe's fantasy life afloat. They had bled themselves dry for her. The $75,000 loan wasn't for a new business. It was a desperate, last-ditch effort to inject cash into their lives, because the well had finally run dry. They weren't trying to fund her dream. They were trying to fund their own survival, to maintain the illusion of their comfortable life. They wanted me to sign because they had nothing left to give, and their credit was probably shot. They were going to sacrifice my financial future to cover up their own catastrophic mistakes, and they had the audacity to call me selfish. The anger I felt was pure and white-hot. But it was quickly followed by a chilling realization. This was bad, but was it the whole story? Chloe's failed businesses were expensive, but were they this expensive? Hundreds of thousands of dollars had vanished. Where did it all really go? My investigation had just begun. I had to go deeper. I turned my attention to Chloe. I remembered helping her set up the bank account for her second failed business, the jewelry line. I was a joint signatory on it for about a month before I wisely had my name removed. But I still remembered the bank she used. I wondered if she was lazy, if she used the same bank for everything. It was a long shot, but I had to try. I couldn't access her account directly, but I could search public business registration records. I spent a whole night digging through online databases, cross-referencing names and addresses, and I found it. Chloe's Curations LLC, registered 2 years ago. The address was a P.O. box. This was where it got tricky. I couldn't just hack into her bank account, but I didn't need to. I just needed to see where the money flowed. I thought about the loans I had co-signed. I still had the original paperwork filed away in my home office. I pulled out the files, my hands trembling slightly. Each loan was from a different bank, but the funds were all dispersed to the same account, Chloe's business account. I had the account number. With a business account number, and the name of the LLC, you can sometimes find more information than you'd think. Some banks have less than secure portals for business-to-business transactions. It's a gray area, and as a financial analyst, I knew exactly which gray areas to probe. I wasn't looking to move money, just to verify payment histories. It took me another week of careful late-night work, using techniques I wouldn't dare use at my job. And then I found it, a backdoor into a transaction history viewer. I typed in the account number. A list of payments populated the screen. There were the usual expenses, payments to suppliers for beads that were never used, website designers for sites that were never finished. But there was another, far more regular, and far more disturbing pattern. Every single month, for the past 2.5 years, a large 5-figure sum was transferred from Chloe's account to another one. A single recurring payment. The payment description was always the same. Consulting fee. The amount varied, but it was always huge. $15,000, $20,000. 1 month, it was $30,000. It was a methodical draining. This wasn't the spending pattern of a flighty, irresponsible dreamer. This was systematic. This was planned. My heart pounded in my chest. This was the real story. This is where the money was going. Not to Bali, not to soap-making supplies. It was being funneled to this one mysterious account. I traced the receiving account number. It was registered to a shell corporation based in the Cayman Islands. A dead end. Or it would have been, for most people. But the name of the shell corporation, Thorn Enterprises, sparked something in my memory. Thorn. Why did that name sound so familiar? I thought back, years and years, to when I was a kid, to the hushed, angry conversations I would sometimes overhear between my parents. My father had a business partner back when he was starting his company, a man he had a bitter falling out with, a man my father claimed had tried to ruin him, but whom he had outsmarted and forced out of the company, leaving him with nothing. The man's name was Marcus Thorn. A quick search online confirmed it. Marcus Thorn, former partner at my father's company. There were old local news articles about the legal battle. Thorn had accused my father of fraud, of stealing his ideas and cooking the books to push him out. My father countersued for defamation and won. Thorn was publicly disgraced. He lost everything and disappeared from the local scene. My blood turned to ice. It couldn't be. I had to be sure. I needed more than a name. I needed to connect Marcus Thorn to my sister. I felt like I was losing my mind, like I was scripting a movie in my head. But the numbers didn't lie. The money was going somewhere, and Thorn Enterprises was too big of a coincidence. How would Chloe even know Marcus Thorn? I thought about Chloe's life, her constant need for validation, for an escape, her social media. I'd muted her years ago, but I hadn't blocked her. With a deep sense of dread, I went to her Instagram page. It was a curated gallery of a life she wasn't living. Posed photos with expensive coffees, hashtags about being a boss babe, and an entrepreneur. I scrolled back, months, then years. I was looking for a ghost, and then I found him. It was a group photo from about 3 years ago, at some trendy art gallery opening. Chloe was in the center, smiling brightly, and on the edge of the group, with a proprietary arm around her shoulder, was an older man. He was handsome in a slick, predatory way. Silver hair, expensive suit. I zoomed in on his face. I'd only ever seen one photo of him before, in an old newspaper clipping my dad kept. But it was him. It was Marcus Thorne. The caption Chloe had written underneath was sickeningly sweet. Such an inspiring evening with friends and mentors. So grateful for the wisdom of this man, who believes in my vision. He hadn't just stumbled into her life. He had sought her out. He had become her mentor. He had seen in my spoiled, naive, and greedy sister the perfect tool for his revenge. It all clicked into place. A horrifying, perfect mosaic of deceit. Marcus Thorne had been playing the long game. He had preyed on Chloe's ambition and her resentment of our father's control. He'd probably promised her the world, a secret partnership that would make her wildly successful and finally earn her the respect she craved. All she had to do was ask our parents for money for her businesses and then funnel it to him, to their joint venture. She wasn't just a victim, she was a willing accomplice. She had been stealing from our parents for years, handing their retirement money over to our father's greatest enemy. And our parents, blinded by their favoritism, had enabled the whole thing. They had dismantled their own lives for their golden child, who was in turn delivering them into the hands of a man bent on their destruction. My refusal to co-sign the fifth loan wasn't just an inconvenience for them. It had threatened to expose the entire charade. Their money was gone, and their pipeline to my credit was cut off. The whole house of cards was about to collapse. I sat back in my chair, the screen glow casting a pale light on my face. I held all the cards. I had the transaction histories, the corporate records, the photograph. I had the truth. I could have gone to the police. I could have had Chloe and Marcus Thorne investigated for fraud and conspiracy. But that felt too impersonal, too clean. They had tried to destroy my future, and had emotionally discarded me like a piece of trash. A police report wouldn't heal that wound. No, my revenge had to be personal. It had to be precise, and it had to be delivered in a way that would strip them of the one thing they had left, the one thing they valued even more than money. Their image, their reputation, their perfect family facade. An idea began to form in my mind. It was cold, and it was cruel, and it was perfect. 2 weeks later, I received an embossed invitation in the mail. My parents were celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary. They were throwing a lavish party at a local country club. All their friends, former business associates, the pillars of their social community, would be there. The invitation was, I knew, a final test, a power play. Either I would show up tail between my legs, ready to beg for forgiveness, or I would refuse to come, proving once and for all that I was the cold, heartless son they painted me to be. They had no idea I was about to choose a third option. I RSVP'd, yes. The night of the party was cold and clear. I wore my best suit. I had prepared a small, neat folder, which I carried in my inside jacket pocket. It contained printouts of the most damning evidence. The investment account summary showing a zero balance, the bank statements with the transfers to Chloe, and a summary of the payments from Chloe's LLC to Thorne Enterprises, and finally, a glossy print of that Instagram photo of Chloe and Marcus Thorne. I walked into the country club. The ballroom was glittering. A string quartet was playing. My parents stood near the entrance, greeting guests. My father looked distinguished in his tuxedo. My mother was radiant in a silver gown. Chloe was floating around the room in a red dress, soaking up the attention. They looked like the picture of success and happiness, a complete and utter lie. When my mother saw me, her smile faltered for a fraction of a second. My father's eyes narrowed. Chloe simply ignored me. They thought I was there to surrender. I didn't approach them. I got a drink from the bar and mingled, making polite small talk with people I'd known my whole life. I was calm. I was patient. I was a predator waiting for the perfect moment to strike. After the main course, my father tapped a glass for attention. He made a beautiful, heartfelt speech about his 40 years with my mother, about love and family, and the legacy they hoped to leave behind. People dabbed their eyes. It was a masterful performance. When he was done, and the applause died down, I raised my own glass. If I may, I said, my voice carrying across the quiet room. I'd like to propose a toast as well. Every eye in the room turned to me. My father looked annoyed, but he couldn't very well refuse in front of all his friends. He gave a tight, condescending nod. I walked to the front of the room, standing near the small stage. I smiled, a warm, sad smile. "Good evening, everyone," I began. "It's an honor to be here to celebrate my parents, Richard and Ellen. 40 years is an incredible milestone." My father spoke of legacy, and it's made me think a lot about what family really means. It means support, it means sacrifice, and it means honesty. I paused, letting the word hang in the air. My parents were watching me intently, a flicker of unease in their eyes. "I've always admired my parents' generosity," I continued, my voice steady, "especially towards my sister Chloe. They have supported her dreams with everything they have. I think very few people here tonight truly understand the depth of that support." I looked directly at my parents. I'm an analyst. I look at numbers, and recently, I took a look at our family's numbers because I was worried. I wanted to understand how I could help, and what I found was a story of sacrifice so profound, it needs to be shared. I pulled the folder from my pocket. I didn't open it yet. I just held it. I discovered that my parents, to fund Chloe's many ventures, have quietly sold off their entire retirement portfolio. Every stock, every bond. It's all gone. A wave of shocked murmurs rippled through the room. My father's face went pale. My mother looked like she was going to be sick. "They have poured hundreds of thousands of dollars into her businesses," I went on, my voice filled with fake sympathy. "They've bled themselves dry, all in the name of a parent's love. They are on the verge of losing this beautiful house you all know. Their legacy is debt, all to support their daughter." I turned my gaze to Chloe, who was staring at me, her face a mask of disbelief and horror. "But here's the most heartbreaking part of the story," I said, my voice dropping to a conspiratorial hush. I asked myself, where did all that money go? And I found that too. It seems my sister had a partner in her endeavors, a silent partner, a mentor. I finally opened the folder. For the last 3 years, Chloe has been systematically funneling her parents' money every month into an offshore account belonging to a company called Thorn Enterprises. At the name Thorn, my father flinched as if he'd been struck. He knew. "And who owns Thorn Enterprises?" I asked the crowd. I pulled out the photograph. "Well, he's a man some of you might remember. A man my sister calls her mentor. His name is Marcus Thorn." I held up the picture for everyone to see. The image of Chloe, smiling, with her arm linked through Marcus Thorn's. The silence in the room was absolute. It was deafening. Every person was staring, not at me, but at my family, at the crumbling ruins of their perfect image. "So I'd like to propose a toast," I said, raising my glass high, "to family, to sacrifice, and to the truth. Because it always, always comes out in the end. Congratulations, Mom and Dad." I took a sip of my drink, and then I placed the folder on an empty table at the front of the room for anyone to see. Then, just as I had done at that Sunday dinner, I turned around and walked away. I didn't say another word. The chaos erupted behind me, shouting, crying, the sound of a glass shattering. I didn't look back. My work was done. In the months that followed, their world imploded. Their friends, armed with the truth, abandoned them. They were social pariahs. They were forced to sell the house to cover their debts, moving into a small, sad rental apartment. My father tried to press charges against Marcus, but the money was in the Caymans, untouchable. And the paper trail showed Chloe had transferred it all willingly. She was a pariah too, not just socially, but within our own shattered family. The last I heard, she was working as a waitress. Her dreams of being a boss babe turned to dust. My parents' relationship with her was broken beyond repair. They saw her not as their golden child, but as the architect of their ruin. They tried to contact me, of course, not to apologize, but to ask for money. I blocked their numbers. I didn't get the inheritance. I didn't get an apology, but I got something far more valuable. I got my life back. I got peace. The weight of their expectations, their manipulations, their conditional love, was finally gone. I saved myself by refusing to save them. Some might call what I did revenge, and maybe it was, but to me, It was just balancing the books. It was a final painful accounting of the truth. And in the end, the numbers didn't lie. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever felt like the black sheep or the outsider in your own family, or if you just enjoy a story where the truth finally comes to light, please show your support by hitting the like button. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read all of them. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next story. Sharing this video with a friend who might appreciate it helps our community grow. Thank you for being here.